Racing Post have cranked up their misinformation push this week ahead of the Gambling Act review. So I thought I'd share my reaction to this corporate onslaught of bookmakers' propaganda, because even at £4.20 a day for the paper, the Racing Post doesn't represent its readers. But it wouldn't be the first time that that's happened now, would it?
You don't get to choose which races you tip on.
No, I don't get to choose. The bookmakers will send me the list.
So I'm going to be talking about not one but 3 articles here published by the Racing Post, 2 being published at the beginning of this week and 1 that was updated after publication back in August. Now I'm going to be talking from a perspective of a consistent winner on behalf of the general betting public, including you naughty people that have the sheer audacity to win a bet from time to time. Not an extremist anti-gambling lobby group, not a ruthless multinational mega corporation, and not a super affiliate that's posing as a racing newspaper, just the ordinary folk that it's supposed to represent. Okay, so it's important that I share these 3 articles in order because it's actually quite amusing once you see what's going on here. But the Racing Post released this article on the 8th of May. Lee Mottershead's written it, senior editor, and he's saying that somebody's written in, a reader, saying that they've got £300,000 in savings, £70,000 in income, and they've been limited to £200 a month deposits with a bookmaker. There's lots in the article about racecourses, tendencies dropping and all sorts of stuff like that, but the final part of the article is about this case. Now the person's anonymous. I understand why somebody would be anonymous. They probably don't want their details being put in a racing newspaper saying that they are betting. But also there's several highly dubious elements to this. So Lee's left out a lot of information, and the question that I would like to ask is what's not being shown here? Because he hasn't mentioned which bookmaker it is. Why is that? Is that because the Racing Post derives a huge amount of their income via affiliate income, which is paid by the bookmakers? He's not shared anything about if this person's potentially been in trouble with the law in the past, which could be a reason if the bookmaker suspects that they've been linked to, I don't know, criminal activity, something to do with money laundering, something like that. That might be why they're limited. It might also show that in the past they've had some kind of gambling issue or problems, or they might have registered for GamStop. It doesn't say that they haven't within the article. These could all be reasons, but I think the real reason, the number one reason it's most likely to be anyway, and I can't say unanimously, this is just my opinion, but the real reason will be this person might have won some money from the bookmaker. So they've sent all of their financial information, the bookmaker exploits their situation, something that's been covered several times on this channel, and then they limit somebody to the amount of money they could deposit, not because they're trying to be responsible and they think that they might hurt themselves in terms of harm, but because they want to enhance their bottom line profit. But it's not in the best interest of the Racing Post to share this because they derive all their income from bookmakers. If you look at the Racing Post returns on Companies House, you'll see that they're making quite a lot of money each year, and in fact that you can see on the screen there, you need to add 3 zeros to those numbers for somebody that doesn't normally look at company statements. They are making huge amounts of money, which is the point here. The Racing Post is giving a very biased opinion, pushing it out to the general public, pinning it to the fact that racecourses are in decline and the sport is suffering and all of that, whilst they're filtering out huge sums of money and acting on the bookmaker's behalf, whilst not disclosing who the bookmaker is or what the real reasons for this instance are. Now, at the top of this article, it says related articles. One of those related articles was published on the 9th of May, which is today, saying a genuine menace, which is a quote from later on in the article, saying that there is a threat from the black market in terms of the betting industry, and obviously they don't want affordability checks. Now this article's been written by Bill Barber, the industry editor. I've seen lots of articles from Bill. He's a fairly good writer, but again, a routine theme with Bill Barber's articles is he won't acknowledge the fact that bookmakers exploit restrictions, exploit customers, and basically only serve degenerate losers, which of course lines the Racing Post's pocket. So further on throughout the article, or I say further on, a couple of paragraphs in, it says that they're gonna, he plants the seed that it's a growing threat in the black market. That all of a sudden now we're doing the Gambling Act review, as he says there in the first paragraph, it's a growing threat. The black market is a growing threat, and according to a report commissioned by the Betting Gaming Council. Whoa, stop there for people that don't know. Who are the Betting Gaming Council? Betting Gaming Council is a standards body which is paid for by bookmakers. You know, the Racing Post sponsors, the very people that I was talking about in that previous article there. According to them, they've commissioned a study and they've got some nice statistics to back up their argument, which they're publishing in the Racing Post here. All of which does not serve the end customer very well. In fact, as we know, winners are exploited, restricted and sent to the black market, and degenerate losers they try to keep on their books. It also references an investigation by the Racing Post last year, which is the third article, which is where it gets really funny in a moment, so bear with me. But throughout this article it says that, you know, restrictions on customers depositing money, i.e. losers, via affordability checks is going to be a massive problem. It's going to send people to the black market, and it's like, hello, what have your BGC members, your Racing Post sponsors, what have they been doing for years? Because 6 years ago I published a video on this YouTube channel complaining about that very thing, but they didn't care about that because that was purely applied to winners, of course. Okay. Also, you may remember a video published last month about corals where somebody logged into their account, placed one bet, and then had to go through the affordability process, and their account was restricted and they were messed around and vice versa. So clearly it's not an issue for the BGC, it's not an issue for Michael Dugar, it's not an issue for the Racing Post when it's happening to winners, and they don't want to talk about that. It's only going to be an issue when these checks are applied to degenerate losers, which are massively lining their pockets. Now, later on in the article, Michael Dugar also goes on to say that it's only going to get worse. And I think that that is quite fair, particularly if these affordability checks are brought out. But it's going to happen anyway, because the new younger generations are spending all their money on cryptos, NFTs, they're gambling on the blockchain, they're looking at the metaverse and all this kind of stuff, okay? It's going to happen because people are jumping ship into less regulated markets faster. This might encourage them, but the answer certainly isn't let the bookmakers crack on with their own already somewhat dubious behaviour. He also said, and I quote, "You can't reform a black market, only stop people to be driven to it." Hello, that example I mentioned with coral there, what about that one? Weren't really bothered about that one. But let's give him a chance, because the third article is where it had me laughing. Now, the third article was published back in August last year, but it's been updated on the 9th of May. I'm not really sure why that is, but the title of the article is "Revealed: How Black Market Betting Sites Are Preying on Gambling Addicts." Now, I shouldn't laugh because it's not a funny issue, but I can just imagine, you know, a crack team of investigators from the Racing Post being deployed to, you know, put out some agenda pieces about the black market here. And what did they find? Yeah, you want to believe it. They went over to Trustpilot, and they're not happy because black market operators' Trustpilot reviews say that you could find a situation where when it comes to withdraw, they don't want to give you your money back. Hello, William Hill, Coral, Ladbrokes, Bet365, Betfair Sportsbook, they're all at it in the regulated market. So let's take a quick look at the Trustpilot reviews for them. Betfair, bad, 1.2 scored out of 1,500 reviews. Paddy Power, 1.3 out of 2,100 reviews. Bet365, 1.4 out of 378 reviews. Coral, 1.4 out of 1,400 reviews. Sky Bet, do I need to go on? 1.3. Betway, the funniest thing here, Betway scores 1.8, and they're probably one of the worst operators out of the lot of them. Betfred, 1.3. Now, are any of those members of the BGC? Oh look, just about all of them. It's a pity the Racing Post investigators didn't just look at their own Twitter account and Twitter replies, because you'll see that there's hundreds, if not thousands of people online complaining about the behaviour from the regulated bookmakers exploiting affordability checks and the affordability process. As we go down the article, it also says that these black market sites are shamelessly preying on punters. Hello, I'd like to draw your attention to a previous video that we uploaded last month. It was very popular, where William Hill, in the very same month, put one guy who had deposited £10 into his account, they put him through 16 weeks of checks so he could withdraw his £47 worth of winnings. In the same month that they got a fine for £3 million where they didn't do affordability checks on somebody who was, you know, somewhat big time loser who had lost hundreds of thousands of pounds to him. How can this madness even be allowed to be going on. The Racing Post are clearly not a newspaper or a news source for punters. They are a bookmaker's PR company, a mouthpiece, as you will have seen in the past with the previous FOBT articles in a horse racing newspaper, where they basically done the bookmakers' dirty work for them. But there's more, as we reveal in this video here, about the Racing Post tipping service price-wise. If ever you've been tempted to take a look at betting tips, it's a bit of a shocker, so make sure you check it out. Thanks for subscribing, and I'll see you next time.